aces, invalidations, and rules. So what makes a three aces valid? What actually validates it, right? First of all, we need to start from the very basic, which is three aces and two patterns. And it's this example I'm giving here, right? That's the typical three aces, right? Which is two patterns, the green one, the small one, this white one here, and obviously the point of interest, which is what validates it as a three aces. But it's only got two patterns. It's still a pretty decent setup to follow. And you also have the three aces, three patterns, which is a higher probability. And I'm going to get into that in more detail. So, okay, firstly, with the three aces, you've got the M15 or the H1 higher time frame pattern. This is really the only time frame you should be looking at on the H1 or even the M15. It's going to be the same pattern because both time frames are very, very similar in terms of identifying the larger structure pattern, right? Now, for example, we've got this pattern here. This could be your M15 or your H1. It's going to be the same thing. That should be one of your first requirements. You've got the larger structure pattern. That's number one. Number two is an M5 lower time frame pattern, right? That needs to be very clear, a very clear lower time frame pattern. But within that pattern, you need to make sure that within the pattern is a clear Elliott wave. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and obviously the third tap, which is the fifth wave, that is your point of interest where you should be looking to get involved. So as long as you can see a clear Elliott wave on the fifth Elliott wave, which is obviously your third tap, that is your signal that confirms the pattern. And then obviously the point of interest, which is the banker block in confluence with the point of interest, that confirms the three aces. Now, obviously, if you see a three aces with three patterns, all you need to do is just add an M1 compression or a pattern. And that's going to be just right here. It's going to be another compression on the lower time frame, and that will complete your third pattern. So that is really all what you need to be looking at, right? Very simple. Just follow these set of rules and you're good to go. Because sometimes you may get these different variations of the three aces, which yes, every now and again they do play out. But number one, they have a low win rate. Number two, the price action after once it be triggered in, it just becomes messy or it just hits a stop loss. So one of the first obvious invalidations of a three aces is when there's actually a boomerang, right? Because it invalidates the three aces, the three patterns. And the reason I say that is because this is very important to follow as well. You need to have a clear 1, 2, and a clear third tap coming from the top end of the pattern, right? So a move from up here down towards this confirms your number one tap, and the clear move from the top end of this pattern confirms your number two, and the clear move from this end of the pattern confirms your number three. That is very, very important. If you don't have that, that's going to invalidate your three aces. Very, very simple to follow, because sometimes you may get something like this where there's one tap here, but then you've got, for example, you've got 1, 2, and the third tap, or maybe even 1, 2, 3, 4 taps, and you've got 1, 2, 3, you've got the point of interest, and you may finish as a three aces. This is an invalid three aces. Why? Because the only valid tap is here. As you can see, you've only got one tap here, and then you've only got a second tap here. You need a minimum of 3 taps. 1, 2, 3. And for these 3 taps to be valid, they need to come from the top end of the pattern, a full move to the downside. This is what confirms a three aces, okay? Now, obviously, yes, every now and again, you will see this invalid three aces play out and, potentially complete a 1, 2, and 3, but it's just an invalid three aces. It's a low probability three aces, okay? So I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend to just strictly follow this, and that's all you need to do. Very, very simple. And with this example here, if you see a three aces with a very clear 1, 2, and 3, a very clear 1 coming from the top end of the pattern, the second one coming from the top end of the pattern, but then look, it's invalidated the pattern. It's done a boomerang, which means this is now your new number one, right? Because it invalidated the main pattern and it forms a new pattern. So this is your new move to the downside to complete your number one. Now you need to wait for a potential number 2, right? So you just wait it out and you've got a potential third tap from here. And now you've got your new 1, 2, and 3. Now you can look for a three aces, right? So this will also invalidate your three aces. It's very, very important. Just make sure that there's no stop on of the current three aces pattern or it just invalidates it, right? Even if price action looks really sexy and clean, do not trade it. It's just low probability. right? It might come up, but who cares? You need to follow the rules, right? This is the very, very strict set of rules that I personally follow, and I just don't really take these trades. You know, fair enough, if you've got a massive buffer to play with and you want to be aggressive, then that's fine. That's completely up to you. But you need to form the early habits of just being a disciplined professional trader and only stick to the main set of rules, regardless of the buffer you have. Now, you can trade certain trades with a buffer, right? But as long as they're valid. This particular trade it's invalid. This is a new setup that's forming that we don't know what's really happening. This is probably the start of one move here, a new pattern, and then potentially a second pattern. So it's not really a free aces. It might rally to the upside, but with that being said, just do not trade it, right? Same scenario here. Like I just mentioned, you've got, you know, one tap, two taps. So you've only got number one here and number two here. Your free aces has to be a number three, right? That is the rules. It has to be the third tap of a pattern, okay? This is the very basic high probability setup. Now, yes, you may find a free aces at number two, and yes, it may play out, right? But it's not the original valid free aces that has a high probability success rate. So this is the one you should always be looking at, right? Another invalidation may be something like this, where you've got one tap, two tap, a clear third tap, even a break of structure over here, followed by some compression or a flag, and then you've got the free aces, 3 points of interest, maybe even a lower time frame compression on the 1 minute, and you're expecting it to go long because, you know, fair enough, you're probably expecting this, but guess what? It's invalid. It's an invalid free aces. Why? Because it's only got one move, which is from here. So you've got one, so you've only got one move, and this is just, it's insignificant. You need 3 moves down. So one, two, and you need a third tap here with a pattern to confirm the free aces, right? So again, another invalidation of the strategy. You know, there's probably another 5 or 10 different variations of the free aces. You know, we don't have to get into all the details. Just follow this. That's all you need to do. Follow this. Very, very simple. Another example, you know, you may even have a one tap, a two tap, and a third tap, a 1, 2, and 3 with a pattern. You even got 1, 2, and 3, and you think, okay, this looks okay, but no, it's not, right? If you missed out this detail, right, we've got this move here. Fine, that's 1, that confirms it. A move from the top here confirms number 2. Now you've got a move from the third tap. We're expecting the move from the number 3. So a free aces here doesn't mean anything because it's just a free aces in the middle of no man's land. So it's a low probability. So if there is a pattern here, perhaps there's another pattern forming, right? But then guess what? You've only got one move, nothing. This doesn't mean anything. And then you've got a second move here. So again, it invalidates the pattern, right? Sometimes this happens and it might look really crystal clear, but then it just invalidates it. So really just follow this and you're good to go. Make sure there's a move from the very top to confirm the number 1, a move from the very top to confirm the number 2, and a move from the third tap of the top end of the trend line to confirm your number 3, obviously with a pattern, and vice versa. If you're trading everything on the flip side, it's the same set of rules. If I just flip the screen, it's the same set of rules, right? So again, we're looking for a move from here, a move from here, and a move from here to complete your 1, 2, and the valid number 3. So it's the same thing, right? Same principles that I just mentioned, but on the flip side for your free aces. Okay, now let's look at some examples, right? Let's start from, I drew some examples earlier. Let's see what we've got. Okay, so what do we have here, right? We're on the 1 minute chart. 1 minute chart, we can also go on the M15, right? Nice M15 pattern. If we go to the M5, just for some clarity, if we go to the M15 and H1, it's just gonna change with the, I want you guys to see the clear fractals and structure of the pattern. So over here, there's no free aces, as you can see. This third tap here, there's no pattern, right? There's a pattern here, 1, 2, and it just never really reached the free aces, right? It just confirmed the boomerang. That's all it did. It was just a boomerang, and it invalidated the free aces. Again, another scenario, it just invalidated the pattern. We're expecting a free aces. It just never went to the point of interest. If, however, there was a pattern here, as in 1, 2, and 3, and there's a trend line here with a pattern here, this would have been a perfect free aces, right? So again, this is just not a valid free aces. In fact, it's just a very clear boomerang. Okay, another example. What do we have here? Let's zoom in to the M1 actually. It'll be a lot clearer. Okay, M1, what do we have here? Okay, we've got a nice clear structure. As you can see, we're looking for shorts. So if we're looking for shorts, you need to have a clear move here, right? A clear move to the upside. So that's your number 1. This confirms your 1 tap, right? That's fine. Then you've got your second tap. Wait, this is not even your second tap. Why is this not your second tap? Because it didn't come from the original start of the pattern. So in fact, this is not even your second tap. This becomes your second tap here because there's a move from the bottom of the pattern, right? So this is actually your number 2. And what do we say about free aces? We need a minimum of a number 3, right? So again, invalid setup. And another thing to point out is a pattern here, 1, 2, and the third tap, and that's it. You know, there's the free aces is only confirmed once both trend lines meet. And if there's a little boomerang here, there's no free aces anyway. So 2 reasons to not take this potential free aces to some. And obviously, had you taken it, as you can see, you would have taken you out for the reasons that I've just been talking about. Okay, let's look at another example. What do we have here? Have we got anything? Don't really see anything. I think this is just okay, this is not really anything because look, we've got a move from the upside that completes 1 tap, a move from here. This can just be part of this tap here. Fine, but again, we've got 1 move. The second move, where's the third, right? This has to be the third. Had there been a move here now and a rejection from here, let's imagine there was candlesticks here, this would have been a pretty decent free aces, right? As long as there's a pattern here. But again, there was no pattern, there is no free aces, right? All right, let's look at another example. Okay, over here, what do we have? This looks okay, actually. Look, we've got 1, 2, and 3. We've got 1, 2, and 3. And obviously, your point of interest will be here somewhere, right? I'm not sure exactly where. We just do our pose. There we go. I mean, this is the 1 minute, you know, pretty sure there's a banker block here. So, okay, that's not valid. So we go on to the next one. So we can use this as your point of interest. So there we go. That's a point of interest there. Little banker block. It's a little bit too big, the banker block, of course. So not really a trade I would have taken anyway because the banker block's too big. I'm sure you've seen the previous videos on the banker blocks, right? But the pattern is focused on the actual pattern and the structure. It's valid. Why is it valid? Again, we start from the top end of the pattern. Where did number 1 come from? It came from the top end of the pattern. Fine. Okay, confirmed. Where did number 2 come from? Fine. It came from the top end of the pattern. Okay, and your number 3 came from the top end of the pattern, which is fine. So this is a pretty decent, valid free aces, and you know, no wonder it did actually play out. You would have caught a pretty decent long here, would have pulled back, perhaps taken you out on break even or your stop loss if you tighten it, and then it would have gone long. But why do you think this is a messy free aces and it just dropped anyway, right? You need to ask yourself, why did it happen? And the simple answer to that is because the banker block to the right was massive. You know, it's a really big banker block. What do we say about the big banker blocks? They are low probability. Now, had the banker block been a size of, let's say this, somewhere here, right? There was a banker block there, this would have been a completely different story. Okay, what do we have here? This is a textbook example of what I just mentioned earlier. We've got 1 tap here and we've got another tap here, right? But you may be thinking this is 1 tap, 2 tap, 3rd tap, 4th tap, which is fine, and then 1, 2, and then 3, and then your point of interest, valid free aces. But guess what? Yes, it played out. Fair enough, it did actually play out very well, but don't want to take these invalid trades. Why is it invalid? Because from your number 1, you've only got 1 move here that completes your number 1. This doesn't mean anything, right? So it's nothing. This is nothing. Here now, this is an official number 2. So this should really come back down here to complete your number 2. But then what happened? It just went long. And then it even messed around and just completed a boomerang and completely invalidated the pattern. So now that it's been invalidated, this is your new number 1, right? As you can see, that's your new number 1 based on the free aces. So 2 reasons to not take this trade, even though it played out. So perhaps there was just another setup here. This is probably just a textbook boomerang. Break of structure, clear Elliott waves, a boomerang, confirmation, right, on the lower time frames. And there you go. So this, to me, just looks like a boomerang with equal lows and a nice little liquidity pool. So it's got equal lows, liquidity pool, and a banker block, same thing, because it's under the equal lows, and you've got a boomerang. So this is actually a boomerang with equal lows and the banker block / liquidity pool, right? So this is why this played out, but it's not a valid free aces, so just don't journal that. Okay, let's look at some other examples, see what we've got. Okay, I mean, this looks pretty decent, but guess what, right? We've only got 1 and we've only got 2. Why am I not counting this? Because it never came from the top. It needs to be a full move from the downside of that pattern to complete it. So we've only got 1 move here and 1 move here. So you've only got 1 and 2. You need a minimum of 3, and this is why it failed, right? Very, very typical example of a good looking free aces, but it's completely just invalid. You know, you would have saved some money. Here now, I've highlighted it in green. This is quite textbook. Very, very clear structure. We've got this structure from here. It went down eventually towards this end of the pattern. Then we've got this this area went down again to this end of the pattern. So you've got 1, 2, and then what do we have? A nice compressive pattern towards a point of interest and a very textbook number 3. So this is a valid 3 aces, and potentially 3 aces 1, 2, 3. You get a nice little sniper here, and then you just hold it, and look, would have been a very, very lucrative trade, right? So out of all the trades that I showed you, only this one here was the valid one, right? So they don't come often, but as long as you know what you need to look out for, then at least you're prepared. Okay, I believe I don't have any more examples. Don't know what this is. It's quite old, and that's about it. So just re-watch the start of this video and go back through the examples that I just mentioned, and also really just focus on this here. Very, very simple. Focus on this, right? Very simple. And if you want to catch the 3 aces with 3 patterns, all you need to do is do the same thing as this, as your checklist, and just include an M1 compression or a pattern within this point of interest, right? So there should be another little pattern here. Okay, that's it. 3 aces, invalidations, and rules.